Hi there, Emma Drew here, and welcome to another episode of Confessions of a YouTuber, the podcast that makes YouTube simple and gets up close and personal with successful YouTube creators, helping you understand what it takes to grow your YouTube channel the easy way. I'd like to thank TubeBuddy for sponsoring today's show. TubeBuddy is a free browser extension that helps you easily manage and optimize your YouTube channel. It's the YouTube channel tool I personally can't live without. For more information, head over to tubebuddy.com or check out their link in the show notes below. Today, I've got an amazing woman who is the most talented creator I know. She has 4 channels and manages all these on her own, as far as I'm aware. And the first one is English Like a Native. Another channel she has is Verba Vocal Technique. Another one is Bella and Beans TV. And the last one, I think, is Anna's Big Adventure. And all of these channels have given her a total of about 700,000 subscribers. Now, that is absolutely huge. So let's welcome Anna.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And yes, those are the correct channels.
So you have 4 channels. You're a multi-channel YouTuber, aren't you?
That's correct. For my sins, I don't like to do one thing. I like to do everything.
Yeah, if it's shiny and new, you kind of go for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess that's what a multi-passionate person is, right? You just can't leave these ideas alone. And as soon as you get one, you have to jump on it.
Absolutely.
I kind of know the feeling. So can you just give me a little bit of a background about English Like a Native? Because I think is that your first channel? Is that right?
It's not actually my first channel. It's my biggest channel, and it's the first channel that I started in a very serious way. So I'll give you a bit of background and then you can see how English Like a Native evolved. My background is in acting. I trained as an actor, and as is the way of all actors, there is never enough work. Even if you're really good at the top of your game, you're rarely in a job one after the other. There's always a downtime, and in between jobs you have to work, doing either waiting on or doing promo work. And I opted to teach in between my acting work, and I would teach all sorts of things, including dance, drama, singing, that kind of thing.
So you're actually a teacher?
Yeah, so I was an actor with a kind of sideline of teaching. I always like to give something back and help people out. It's quite natural to me. And I found that when I was teaching singing, many of my students wouldn't bring a dictaphone to the class to record the lesson. And when you're singing, it's like exercising. You have to do regular exercises if you're going to really make improvements in your voice. Once a fortnight is not enough for vocal exercises. And every week I say, please bring your dictaphone, and they didn't. And so one day after a lesson, I was very frustrated. I just pulled my camera out and I sat down and I recorded some exercises. And I put them up on YouTube because at the time, that's what YouTube was there for. It was a place to store videos online that other people could access. Mm-hmm. And I would tell all my students, please go and see this video. I sent them the link and I said, use this video in between our lessons to improve your voice. And then months and months down the line, I got an email from Google, YouTube, saying, congratulations, you could get your first paycheck. I was like, what? I didn't even realize that you could make money on YouTube. It wasn't something that I was ever aware of. And so this was a very nice surprise. And it was a very small amount. Many people listening to this, I'm sure, will be YouTubers and will understand that AdSense doesn't really pay that much. It's pocket change. But as an actor who doesn't have any stable income, this was a really lovely surprise. And I thought, well, this could be a regular thing. I could make this bigger. I could make more videos that also make small amounts, and all those small amounts will add up to something reasonable. And so I started making a few more videos for this singing channel, which is what became Verba Vocal Technique.
I see, right.
So after that, the videos didn't all perform as well as that first one had. It was a little bit of an anomaly, a bit of a fluke, really. But it really got me tuned into the idea of being a YouTuber. And then with another teaching job, it was an acting teaching job, teaching acting to children I had a lot of children one term who had speech impediments, issues with the TH or the S sound or the R sound. And I quickly discovered that I had a knack for helping in a kind of speech therapy type of way. I was able to understand what they were doing with their mouths, what they needed to do to correct those particular sounds. And I started little classes of elocution, really, but it's pretty much straight speech therapy, really.
Right. Yeah.
So I was doing this with the children, and I was still teaching all sorts of things outside of my general classes as a private tutor. And I started advertising as an elocution teacher because I was building this experience. And I started getting lots of interest as an elocution teacher. More than anything else, people wanted the elocution, and I was having more adults come to me, and most of them were not English natives.
I see.
And so the lessons very quickly turned from just talking about speech and pronunciation to grammar. And I was like, okay, there's obviously something here. And it made me decide to start a new channel that would help people in English. And that's when English Like a Native was born. Outside of that, how did all of them come about? Outside of English Like a Native and Verba, I always had this little personal channel called Anna's Big Adventure, which is the new name now. I can't remember what it was before, probably just my name, Anna Tyrie. And I would post my acting up there, my little short films and things like that. Around the time of everything becoming more like a job on YouTube, I decided to do some self-help stuff on Anna's Big Adventure, and it was things like medical advice. So I was having some issues with abnormal smear tests at the time, and I felt quite passionately about trying to encourage young girls to go and have their smear tests.
Right. I see.
And so I spoke about my experiences and advised, and it encouraged my best friend to go and have a smear test. And she found out that she had cervical cancer from going for this test. And she was like, thank you so much for making me go, because we caught this cancer. And luckily enough, it was all eradicated very quickly because they caught it just in time. And so this obviously inspired me to do more. And that channel evolved and evolved and evolved until eventually it became an adventure channel, because I decided I want to inspire people to get out and do stuff and travel and have fun and adventures. And then I had a baby. I was like, well, how do I keep this going? Well, I'll just turn it into a parenting adventure channel. So now I continue having my adventures, but do it from a parenting point of view. And so that's how that one's come into. So
that one sounds more like a kind of vlog channel where someone's following your life and your lifestyle and your life adventures, really.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
then
you've got another one, have you?
Yeah, the last one, which is it's going to be the most successful, I'm almost certain. And that came into being just a couple of years ago. We, as Verba, we came together. I was with my pianist and someone who helps me with the singing. We were all together, we're all good friends, and we were discussing how my pianist has children, a couple of young children. He was saying that sometimes he puts his boys down in front of YouTube, they'll be watching something fantastic, and he'll go away and come back, and suddenly there's some random stuff on that's not that educational, that's meant to be educational for children, and then it makes him feel very guilty. And he said off the cuff, we could do better. And it basically planted the seed, and I was like, well, why don't we? And because we've all got a musical background, we all trained at the Royal Academy of Music, and so we all have this musical theatre background, and my pianist is obviously as a musician, and so we thought, well, why don't we put this into good use and help parents and young children and entertain, and that's where Bella and Beans was born.
What kind of videos do you produce in terms of like the film? Are they film, animation, or?
So it's a mixture. It's live performance. So it's myself and my one of my channel partners plays Bean. So I'm Bella and he plays Beans, and we dress up. It's aimed at preschool, so very young children. Initially, it was all kind of like a mixture of episodic and singing, original songs, and some covers. Yeah. But now, through what we've learned and how everything is going at the moment, we are just concentrating on doing nursery rhymes and popular songs for kids. We are shoehorning in a couple of our own original songs and trying to get them to pick up as well, but it's very difficult. It's much better to go with things that people know in the first instance and build an audience that way. Something
like that, because obviously my own channel is a nursery rhymes channel. It is a very saturated market. I mean,
hugely.
Is it something that is worth pushing? I mean, at what point do you say enough is enough, or what do you just keep going?
Well, funnily enough, just before my baby was born, obviously I have all these channels, and I knew something would have to give because I was working insane hours and all my spare time was going towards YouTube. And I thought, with a baby, there's no way I can keep this up. Something has to give. And at the time, Bella and Beans was a tiny channel. It was getting minimal amount of views, but took the most work. Right. Because although it's live action, we do everything pretty much on a green screen. So it does take some animation as well, lots of editing. We have to record the music. We have to write the music. So it's a big effort for very little
work in there. I know that myself.
For very little reward.
Yeah.
So when Jacob was born, beforehand I said we could keep it going. But as soon as he was born, I realized it wasn't going to happen. And I mean, I had a cesarean section, and so I was very beaten after Jacob was born for quite a long time. And I just said to my channel partners, I can't keep doing this. This has to stop. And so at the time, we had one video in the bag that we'd recorded when I was 7 months pregnant, and it had already been edited. And my channel partner said, well, what do you want to do with this video? Should we wait until you're ready to start again, or should we just release it now? And in my heart of hearts, I thought, well, we're not going to start again. I'll let them think that, but we're not going to start again. And so I said, just release it, just go for it. Yeah. And that channel, I think that one's now had 11 million views or something like that.
Which song?
It was the Baby Shark song, of course. I think it's the biggest song of the decade or something.
I think it is. I think you can't go wrong there, really, can you?
No.
Really, you've gone absolutely right there. The video that has put your channel on a new path.
It has, and the channel I think it's something like in 5 or 6 months, the channel's gone from under 1,000 subscribers up to it's going to hit 100,000 subscribers in the next week, I believe.
Wow, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, and we've had something like more than 30 million views or something. It's insane how quickly it's turned around.
And what do you say about, because I know that when you have something that's successful, you need to stay on track and you need to be consistent and go with that momentum, because it's very easy just to allow that one video to, keep you up there, but it won't sustain. So how do you manage that?
So I've been in this position before. I've had a video really overperform or outperform everything else in a big way.
Go viral.
And I think it's very easy to make the mistake of thinking, okay, so now I've done it. Now I've broken through and I'll just keep doing what I was planning to do, which is a mistake. I think the most important thing when you have a big video that helps you to break through is to analyze that video and find out why it's doing so well, and then repeat it a number of times until you exhaust it almost. And so in the past, when things have really blown up, I've just carried on doing my own thing and not understood or made an effort to understand why that one video did well. And then I've lost the momentum.
Yeah.
Whereas with Bella and Beans, we're still prodding at different things to see if there's anything else we can do. But generally we're staying on the same track. We're trying to repeat the same thing because that's what the algorithm likes, that's what the audience likes, and we're trying to repeat it but also do it better each time, and so to improve on that success.
So how can you improve on Baby Shark? Do you just Baby Shark?
So with Baby Shark, so with Baby Shark, we've done a number of other Baby Shark versions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just before Christmas that video went up. So we did a Christmas Baby Shark, for
Ah,
example. We've done a Baby Shark dance remix.
yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of versions you can do. You just have to be imaginative.
Yeah.
And we just released an original song, a numbers song, which unfortunately didn't do so well. But our angle was that we used the sharks to help with the learning of the numbers, and so the Baby Sharks featured in the numbers song. It was just an original song and not the Baby Shark song. That didn't do so well, but I know that when children have been served the video, parents have come back to me and said, you know, because of the Baby Sharks in it and the Baby Shark family, they love it. They were mesmerized. They wanted to watch it again and again. And you know, of course, it's important to get the views and to be served by the algorithm, to please the algorithm. But I think for us as well, the most important thing for us as artists is that actually when it is delivered, when it is in front of a child or an audience member, that they actually enjoy it and they feel like they've gained something from it.
Amen. I mean, one of the things actually that you just talked about there is like, it's not just them really, is it, that need to enjoy it? It's you as a creator. You have to be authentic, and if it's not good enough for you, it clearly isn't going to be good enough for anyone else, right?
No, absolutely.
And that's what I go with. If I'm not happy with it, I can't really release it.
I used to in the past. I've gone through all sorts of stages, I think, that many YouTubers go through. And one stage will be, I'm just going to work as hard as I can and put out as much stuff as I can. And you just kind of go through this, you go in overdrive and you just start throwing stuff out. And then you hopefully will quickly realize that actually you lose quality when you try to go for quantity. And I would find myself trying to sell myself to brands in order to get brand deals and things, and feeling embarrassed about the content that they were watching in order to decide whether they wanted to partner with me. And that's not a good feeling, because these videos hopefully are going to be out there forever. You don't really want to go to all the effort to delist videos.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
No. So you want to make sure that everything you put out, you are totally proud of and happy to represent you and your brand. And YouTube have changed recently. It used to be about getting as much out and as quickly as possible. But actually now YouTube understand that you get creator burnout, and they are less concerned about quantity and consistency. They're more concerned about you producing quality videos that keep people watching.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, they've had to sort of take that view on now, because, you know, they are now an established broadcasting network, aren't they? No one's watching TV. Well, there are a few people watching TV, but people are generally watching YouTube more than TV, and that's just going to continue. So, you know, the algorithm itself is obviously, it does its job, and I think it does a great job, just like Amazon do and all the others do, to recommend, you know, recommended books, recommended videos, and all that kind of thing. But I think in the long term is that if you've got like timeless, good quality content, your channel will survive. It can sustain itself. My channel itself has been going for 10 years. It's still growing. Wow. You know, because the content is there. It's quality content. I'm proud of it, you know.
Yeah, good. And you should be.
Yeah, thanks. And you should be proud. And I think that's the thing as a creator. If you can be proud of your content and you feel that you're giving great value, then I think that's all there is to it. I mean, yes, you can try and release 3 a week. Well, you know, you are going to suffer from burnout. It does take quite a lot to create that. But at the same time, if you can do it, that's great. But if you can't, you really need to sort of step back a bit and really just see what works for you.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, we're a little bit older than the average YouTuber. But I think understanding that life is so short and the quality of life is so important. And actually when you're trying to do YouTube professionally, it's so much more than a normal job. It demands so much more. It's draining, and so you have to be kind to yourself. And so trying to go for putting out so much content, it's not good for your well-being.
No.
And for the quality of your relationships with the people in your life.
That's right. It's a 24/7 job if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
I've had those days. And I've also had those days where, I've not worked for a few months. I was like, well, I don't need to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also that was largely down to burnout and thinking, I just got to take a break from this, because I think a lot of people treat YouTube as a race, and it's not a race. It's a network.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think as soon as they can change their attitude towards that and make them, realize basically that, this is not about winning and being the biggest YouTuber. This is about serving a community of people who are, really value what you've got to offer. And that's where it all begins. What can you offer that they're looking for? And how well can you offer that, and how long can you keep it going? And they are so loyal once they have subscribed to you and they like your stuff. They're there for the duration. So I think it's a fantastic platform for that kind of thing, and it is changing. And I actually think that there's a lot more older people, meaning like your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, using YouTube. And they're looking for different things to what younger people are looking for. And naturally, it's just a huge marketplace.
Yeah.
A video marketplace. So actually, I wanted to actually talk about, because you've got so many channels and you're doing so much. How do you actually manage your time? Because I know from my point of view, I've got a few channels, and I myself, it can be quite tricky when running a family as well. Now you've had a little baby. How do you manage it? And do you outsource stuff? Do you do everything yourself?
Yeah. So I think outsourcing is the one thing that a lot of people are interested in, because it's difficult to know when to do it. It's hard enough to make a living on YouTube. And so I've dipped my toe into outsourcing a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
I think now I'm getting there. I think I've kind of cracked it.
Mm-hmm.
So now, yes, I do outsource.
What sort of things do you outsource? Are you quite particular about what you?
Yeah, I outsource my editing. That's the biggest one, especially when you've got so many channels. Editing takes so much time, and I'm quite particular. And so I would spend quite a lot of time on an edit. And so now I outsource editing to two different people. One is one of my team members that I'm training up, who is editing probably a third of my videos.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a company. I do have one editor within the company. It's called VidChops, and they edit quite a lot of my videos. I will always clean up edits, so it's never completely an editor does everything, and I have no hand in it at all. I will always want to change something because I'm very particular.
Right.
But that really does lift a weight. And I do have to sometimes step back and go, is it that important that the font is different? Is it that important that this square is sitting a little too far up into the corner?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have to let it go and think it's, not that important.
Right. Yeah.
But that's made a big difference. What else do I outsource? I have an illustrator. So rather than me trying to find all the animating assets, all the graphics, and working around not having certain graphics, like trying to problem solve around it, we can plan a video, go to the illustrator and tell her exactly what we need, and so we can have a video serve as exactly as we want it.
Right. And what about your other channels like Verba Vocal Technique and the English Like a Native? Because they're head and shoulders, talking to camera, aren't they? Direct to camera kind of videos. I mean, do you do those yourself?
No, so again, the editing is covered by this new editor. I've only been with them for a month, but they are doing pretty much all the editing for all channels, apart from Bella and Beans.
Right.
We still handle the edits for Bella and Beans because they're so complicated.
Yes, it is,
and I just don't trust other people to do it.
Yeah, and it's a very creative process, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the filming, though? The filming of the other channels?
The filming, I do everything. I do everything in that sense. I have recently employed a lady to do more of my social media stuff. So posting for me on Facebook, helping me create slides and things that I would post up. And that's been a real help.
Fantastic. And I noticed actually, in one of your videos for Verba vocal techniques, you really do sort of explain fully how what people need to take into account. And you were there sort of talking to the camera, and then you go to your piano keyboard and you literally go through the whole lesson. I think it was a vocal warm-up or something like that. And I just kind of thought, like, the amount of work going into that. You're filming that yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, so usually it's me alone in a room.
Yeah.
I set up the lights, I set up the camera, I do a quick record to check it. It's on autofocus. That's the most important feature of any camera if you're going to be vlogging by yourself or filming anything alone.
Do you use an iPhone or an SLR?
No, I've got a DSLR. So mostly I film on my I've got a Canon 70D that I film with. But I also have a little vlogging camera, which is a Sony RX100, I think it is.
Why do you have the two different ones? Do you have a preference depending on what you're...
Yeah, so Anna's Big Adventure predominantly initially was actually out adventuring. So it's climbing mountains or, jumping out of planes or whatever it was I was doing, whitewater rafting, horse riding. And having the DSLR, having the DSLR was just too bulky to have. It was heavy to carry, but also I'd find it was so heavy to hold out and film myself, and I didn't feel so inspired to get it out as often. And so
I didn't conspicuous either, is it really?
Exactly. So the vlogging camera was just more to have something literally I could stick in my pocket and grab and go, I'm running out now, and actually this would be great to film. So I just grab my camera and stick it in my pocket.
What about do you have a home studio, or do you hire studios for?
So at the moment, I just work in my conservatory mostly for filming because it's a bigger space. This is difficult for audio though, so I'll just record audio in one of the bedrooms where it's smaller, more compact, more soft furnishings to keep the sound dampened. And then I put my green screen up in the conservatory, and because it's very light here, it's really good for green screening. But eventually, the plan is to maybe build a studio in the back garden.
That sounds great.
It's a huge commitment, so I have to kind of hope that the YouTube success continues.
And it sounds like you're doing a lot of filming, and you're constantly on this, whichever channel it is. That I guess if you had a dedicated space, it would sort of be a bit of a game changer for you, really, wouldn't it?
It would save time, because I think one of the most discouraging things for filming on a filming day is setting up.
Yeah.
Almost especially when it's green screen, because you've got to get it all out of the garage. You've got to hang the green screen. You've got to get your lights up. You've got to plug them all in, get your extensions out, line everything up.
It's a commitment, isn't it, to set everything up, and then also you have to put it away.
Exactly. And I always think if there's one thing you can do to save time, it's just leave your setup set up.
Yes, exactly.
So you can literally just go, do you know what? I'm feeling inspired, because you have to be in the mood to film. You can't do it when you're feeling a bit deflated, because it shows on camera. And when you get to the edit, you just think, I hate this footage. I'm not as charismatic. I'm not as energetic.
And I guess as an actor, when you've got the right energy to actually start filming, and
and I think anyone who's been doing it for a little while will start to get a feel for it. And know that, and just in general, if you're in a good frame of mind and you're feeling excited and happy, then it's going to come across on the camera. So if you have everything set up and ready to go, you can go, do you know what? I look good today. I feel good today. I'm inspired by this. I'm going to jump on and do it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there, because I think it is a lot about the energy that you feel, and you don't want to waste that. You want to jump straight on it when you've got it, and it definitely comes through. So that this podcast is called Confessions of a YouTuber, and I wanted to ask you if you could think of something that perhaps you'd like to confess as a YouTuber.
Okay. So my confession is actually the entirety of English Like a Native. So I have this English channel. I am an English teacher on this English channel, but I have no qualifications or any kind of training or anything. I I did do my English GCSE, but I left school before my GCSEs. I had to do my English exams at an adult education centre. So I'm probably the least qualified person to be teaching English grammar and that kind of thing.
I love it.
And I'm also dyslexic. And so in terms of like spotting,
you're an
mistakes,
inspiration, Anna.
thank you. But the reason I called the channel English Like a Native is so that if I do make mistakes, or I can just say, well, a native would understand me. This is what a native would say, and this is how natives do it. And that's why the channel's called English Like a Native. It's so as a kind of a get out clause, really.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for that. That was really interesting. So are you thinking about sort of monetizing your channels now, or do you do that? I mean, beyond the sort of YouTube AdSense or revenue share?
Yeah. Yes. So
how do you do that? I mean, do you have a sort of a business model that works for any of the channel or overall?
Yeah, and there's a few little things. I think with all these, it's so unpredictable what's going to happen on YouTube. And especially at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty around the Article 13, now renamed Article 17, I believe,
That's right.
Especially for us European creators. And it's always good to not put all your eggs in one basket. It's always good to kind of, what's the word? To vary your incomes and to have a number of different income streams.
Yeah, fingers in lots of pies, hedging your bets, like all that kind of thing.
And so I have a website with the English channel, and I sell English courses. Well, they're not English courses because, like I said, I'm not a qualified English teacher. Yeah. So they are elocution courses. So what I am good at is the elocution, and so I have a course for pronunciation. And I sell ebooks and things like that, things that I've created over the years that I've been doing it. For the singing channel, I also have a website which sells MP3s. We don't do very much on these websites, but it's a little. It's something.
It's and then to support your YouTube channels, and then whatever happens to YouTube, you've still got the email lists, I guess, and the
I don't do email lists. It's the one thing I did start, and I had a huge list, but I found it. I think I was using MailChimp at the time, and I found when you get over a certain number of people on your email list, MailChimp becomes very expensive very quickly. And I didn't find that I was getting enough return on investment with MailChimp. I think if you're going to do anything where you're paying out a lot of money for software, you have to really commit to make sure you're getting a return on that.
That's right.
So I decided to give up the email list, especially when things changed with the EU and you had to start, if you were collecting people's data.
Yes, you needed to add the GDPR.
And that confused me, and it just felt like a headache. So I was like, I'm just going to give up the email list and the email collection thing. What else do I do?
Do you have brand deals with anyone, or?
Yes, that's one of my main income sources. So I do sponsored shout outs and that kind of thing, mostly on the English channel.
Right.
That is my breadwinner, basically.
And who's your sort of distribution, or how do you find out about these brands?
I think if you're whatever niche you're in, I think it's always good to know the other people in your niche. It's always good to research, and if you can, connect with them, make friends with them. These people aren't your competition; they are your community.
Are you talking about your YouTubers or brands, or just generally?
YouTubers. Okay. And so the way I found out about brands was by watching the other people within my niche. So within the English learning niche, there's lots of English teachers online. And so I would watch their videos and see that they were doing sponsorships with certain brands, and I'd reach out to them. And actually the English teaching community is quite a close-knit one. We have a lot of groups that we're all connected on WhatsApp, and on Facebook we have groups. And we're very open and sharing and caring with one another, which is really great, actually, especially when it comes to brand deals, because you could be like, well, hey, I saw you did a sponsorship with whatever learning provider, but are they good to work with? Do they do they demand a lot from you? Are they good payers? Do they pay on time? How should I approach? And do you have an email address for them? And these kinds of things we'd share with one
So
another.
really networking and building together something.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's amazing. And so how do you find the reaction with brands? I mean, how would you approach a brand?
So within the English learning niche, there's
Yep.
loads of brands that are learning providers. So you've got, companies like Babbel and Rosetta Stone and italki, Cambly, all these ones who are providing either lessons online or networks to provide students with a network of teachers, all these
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Mhm.
And so there's an endless list of companies who are looking for ways to get their product out there. And so most of the time with the English channel, I don't have to approach brands. They will approach me because they're just all desperate to
Yeah.
get
And do
their
they
product
approach
out.
you directly, or do they come through an agent or distributor?
No, they come directly to me.
Wow, that's really good.
In the first instance, I would approach them because I was small and no one knew who I was.
Yeah.
And so initially, I would find brands and I would just connect with them either via LinkedIn, or I just find a generic email, or get the email from a fellow English
Yeah.
YouTuber.
Yeah. Sounds like you're very proactive.
Oh,
You're
you have to be. You have to be. If you seriously want to make money, then you need
Mhm.
to go out there and make sure people know who you are.
Yeah. Because
You know.
ultimately, you really want to make money to fund all the creative channels that you're making, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, of course, we're doing this because I think initially everyone was YouTube was a hobby. YouTube people went on YouTube because they just had fun making videos, or they
Yeah.
had something they wanted to share and to say, and
Mhm.
that's still the case. But
Mhm.
now it's something that's truly of value,
Mhm.
and Google and all the Google are making a lot of money out of it, and advertisers are really getting something out of it. For everybody else, it's a job, and so for the creator, it's also a job and should always be seen as such. I think I get most frustrated when my viewers criticize me for doing sponsorships
Mhm.
or for aligning with brands. Now, I'm very careful about which brands I align with
Mhm.
and make sure, and I've turned down huge deals in the past
Mhm.
because I've not felt it was right for my audience, or I didn't believe in the product that they were
Mhm.
trying to sell.
Yeah.
So, I go to these lengths to make sure that what I put out is quality. And yet then sometimes audience members are like, how dare you sell out? And it's just,
Yeah.
who works for free? Who gives their
Well,
time
I
and their
think,
energy for free?
I think it's actually a case of educating your audience. I mean, if they're your true fans or true community, they will support you and they will understand that, you're not being paid to create those videos. And then there might be a bit more understanding now as YouTube matures and viewers mature in the sense that they're used to how it works. And
Yeah.
I think in the early days everyone was out there to criticize, but then there's always going to be the haters, and as a
Yeah.
YouTuber to sort of block them or whatever it is that we have to do. And it's something to watch out for, but it should never really sort of cloud your judgment and who to go with in terms of a brand deal
Yeah.
or even take a brand deal, because that is your livelihood. And if you make it clear, and I'm sure you do, that's just the way it's going to be going.
Yeah.
It's the way it is at the moment.
Yeah, I have experimented a lot with how I integrate brands.
Mm,
I think you do always. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to any YouTuber is just to make sure that what you're doing is about your audience. I think one of the biggest mistakes that YouTubers make is to think it's all about them, to make videos that they just enjoy, and there's nothing wrong with that if you're
yeah.
just a hobbyist,
Mhm.
if you're not serious about making this a business. But if you want to make it a business and you expect people to come and watch your videos, then you have to think, what is this providing to my audience? And it's something I'm always battling with myself over. I started a little series of doing chins. Do you remember the chins? Did you ever
No,
see chins?
I don't remember
It's
that.
when you put goggly eyes on your chin and you turn upside down and you make it talk, and it looks funny because it's an
Yes, I
upside down
do
mouth.
remember that actually.
And so it was on Bella and Beans, actually. We called them Barbie and Kin, with these two
Oh,
chin
okay.
characters.
Hilarious.
And I loved it, and my partner loved it, and we laughed so much about it. but my audience didn't love it. And as much as it pained me, I had to think, well, this is my business, this is my job.
Yeah.
If the audience aren't loving it, it doesn't matter how I feel. I need to stop doing it for now. I'll try and bring them back in later. But it's the same thing I felt with the advertising. Obviously, I need to take sponsorship deals, but I was finding that my audience, weren't really loving the adverts that would happen a minute into the video and would last for a minute or a minute and a half. And they were really kind of pushing back on it. So I started thinking, well, how can I make adverts that either entertain or educate and don't still leave the audience feeling like they gain something from it, even though I'm advertising?
Yeah.
And so I would integrate advertisements into lessons and make it a learning point. Or the last one I just did, alongside my talk about the brand, I put a video of me doing gymnastics to show how real persistence in learning can pay off. Because people who've been following me for a long time, whether they're interested in me talking about a brand, will be definitely interested in seeing me, doing a beam routine in the gymnastics competition. And so that's the kind of thing I try to do to make sure always my audience come first.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, talking about business and brands, how do you find brands in terms of their attitude towards YouTubers like you, or generally in YouTube and sort of advertising on YouTube and sponsoring YouTube?
Yeah, I think it's still a mystery to a lot of brands. There's not a guideline for brands as to what they should expect, how it should work between, like, communication between a YouTuber and a brand, and also like the money. I don't think anyone really has an expectation or an understanding of what we are worth and what our viewership is worth.
Do you think they understand YouTubers and their whole work ethic and their whole goes into?
I think some brands do, but I think most of them, I don't think they understand how much effort goes into making a video or how long it takes. Sometimes I'll make a video and I'll edit the thing, and then having signed off on a script, and then a brand will say to me, "Oh, can you change this?" Like, well, no, because that entails going all the way back, refilming, re-editing. That's a long time, and this video goes out this afternoon. I can't change it. And so it can be difficult. And I think in a lot of cases as well, brands will really try and drive down prices, or they'll have I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if they're being cheeky and just trying to get a good deal, or if they genuinely believe that we are worth less.
I think they genuinely don't quite understand what goes on behind the scenes of a YouTuber and how a YouTuber grows their channel and how serious they take it and what goes into it. And actually, you wear so many hats as a YouTuber. You're a marketer, you're an analyst, you're a filmmaker or an animator or an editor. You have every single role to play. And I think brands, because they will only take on one role. They might be the marketer, for example. That is sort of blinds them from the other things that are involved. And I think it's up to us to educate them and also price ourselves accordingly, so that they realise the value that you're giving.
Absolutely. And one thing I do try and do, which is something that kind of developed over time, is to try to really bring a brand on board so that they become long-term partners rather than just working for a one-off. Because I think it's very easy to think, well, I'll try and get as much money as I can out of this one deal, and I'll really push it. When actually what you should be doing is, like you say, educate them, build a relationship. I always try and offer like a soft introduction. So I'll be like, normally this is my fee, but as it's your first time with me, I'm going to reduce that for you, or I'll throw in a couple of extra posts or something.
I think that's great, because then you're actually building a little bit of trust between you two.
And helping them to see then the value that you can deliver in return.
Have you got any other tips, or one major tip, that could help, or maybe opportunities that there might be out there for YouTubers?
I mean, there's so many tips. I think if someone's starting out, because a lot of people say to me now, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. I think one of the most important things is to make sure whatever you start in, it's something you genuinely are passionate about. Because if this becomes something you're doing all day, every day, if it becomes your life, then it's gonna tire very quickly if it's not something you really care about. And I find it even with the channels I have that I do care about, I am passionate about, but when you are immersed in it in entirety, it just becomes quite dull. And I think this is why I have so many channels, is because I like to be able to switch into something different.
Yes, I was going to say, I mean, how do you choose what you're going to do on a different day? I mean, how do you do it?
It has to come down to scheduling. With the channels I have at the moment, Bella and Beans always comes first in terms of picking filming days, because there's not just me. I have to film with other people, and we have a music element. So I have to make sure my musician is up to speed and knows what to provide by when. So we always have a strict schedule for Bella and Beans material. And then English Like a Native comes second, and that will predominantly start with what sponsors do I have to serve this month, and then make sure I've got those videos in place. Right. And then how do I pad around that? Whether I'm doing a series, or I might be, I'm working towards a course at the moment. So yeah, it just works around that, really. What needs to happen, what's going to bring in the money, and what needs to happen are the two important things.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you on YouTube? Have you got 4 channels? Have you got plans for more channels?
Open a whole network.
Downsize, or are you going to keep a whole network? You've got network already, haven't you?
Yeah, I think my focus at the moment is about minimizing my input. Obviously, I have a baby who's growing very fast, and it's very important that I am present as a mother and as a partner, and that we have quality family time that isn't overlooked and overshadowed by me checking my analytics and constantly jumping on off YouTube. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. So at the start of this year, I wanted to make sure I was outsourcing as much as possible, which is what I've already started to put in place, and we talked about earlier. And we're trying now to put in place a weekly schedule, so I know way in advance what I'm doing. My partner always talks about the fact that he compares every channel to a marathon, and he says, Anna, if you were running just one marathon, you would succeed and you would finish and you'd do really well. But you're running 4 marathons all at the same time, and it's like being a jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, really. Wow. And so I'm trying to focus.
Well, I think that's a fair point. I've been guilty of that myself. Yeah. I think eventually you find out yourself, because ultimately you'll know what your passion is because it excites you so much when you do those videos for that particular channel. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you tend to find where your real interest might remain for a long while. And also you've got to figure out what's sustainable for you in terms of work-life balance. It's been brilliant speaking to you. But just before I go, I was going to say to you, in terms of your overall, you're a creative entrepreneur, where do you want to see yourself as a creative entrepreneur and YouTuber? Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years' time?
Well, I really want a gold play button. I think that's something that most people kind of dream about when they start YouTube. Yeah,
I wonder if you can get one if you've got combined all your subscribers, because you're on the way there, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be lovely to have 4 gold play buttons. Yeah. No, I'd love to have that achievement, because that's something really, to be proud of, I think.
Well, you should be proud of everything you've done so far. I mean,
but more than that, I would very much love to see Bella and Beans become more of a household name. I had a childminder look after my baby recently, and I took him to a house that had other children, and she was minding him there with other children. And as I walked in, the mother was just leaving, and she looked at me. She said, "Oh my goodness," she said, "my children love your channel. They watch you all the time. You're Bella." Oh. And that was really lovely. And I would love that. Although I don't want to be walking out in the streets and being recognised, which I probably won't, because I wear a purple wig in the channel. But I would just love to be a part of people's childhood. I'd love to be that nostalgic thing in 40 years. People go, "Oh, do you remember Bella and Beans?" And them singing our songs, perhaps, when getting back to doing the original stuff. That would be
And I think you're in a perfect place at the moment, aren't you, with your little one, and you've got the right sort of spirit to give so much. And I think you'll definitely achieve that. You carry on. You're doing so well with that. I'll put all your channels into the podcast show notes so that everyone can go and take a look. So if you've got little ones, definitely go and check out Bella and Beans TV. If you're looking to improve your singing voice, then definitely go to Verba Vocal Technique. And if you're looking to increase your knowledge on how to speak like an English native, is that right?
Yeah.
You'll need to go to English Like a Native. And if you just want to follow Anna's lifestyle, you've got to check out Anna's Big Adventure. So it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Anna.
No, the pleasure's been mine. Thank you for having me.
I wish you all the success with all your channels, and I'll be back in touch with you when you get that gold play button so that we can discuss how you got it.
Thank you so much.
It won't be very long. So thanks again, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. If you're looking to rapidly grow your channel but don't know where to start, then join my YouTube Audience Growth Lab, where I take you through the 5 steps to automate your YouTube success so that you can focus on what you love doing most, delivering awesome content and reaching those viewers. The great part is it's available all year round, and I'm offering the first module absolutely free when you sign up today. It's ready and waiting when you are, so now's the time to take action. You can learn more and see what other students are saying by clicking the link in the show notes below. I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.